We are coming to you live via Facebook streaming, YouTube streaming, and also via Skype. Each one of you is welcome to this live streaming. Once again, we are back to Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, the question answer session. Surrender to a master is a miracle. Indeed, surrender to a master is a miracle. When you surrender to a master, you do not know what is going to happen and what this man is going to do to you. And you can never be certain whether he is real or not. You cannot know to whom you are surrendering and where he is going to lead to you. You will try to make certain, but the very effort means you are not ready for surrender. Such is the miracle of surrender. You will try to make sure, to make certain, but that very effort means that you are not ready to surrender. If you are absolutely surrendered before you surrender, that this man is going to lead you somewhere to paradise, then you surrender. In that case, it is not surrender at all. Surrender is with an understanding that you are entering the realm of the unknown and unknowable. You have not surrendered. Surrender is always to the unknown and unknowable. When everything is known, it is not surrender. This is what is against the social, the set norms. You have already checked that this is what is going to happen, and 2 and 2 are going to make 4, then there is surrender. You cannot say I surrender because 4 is already made certain. In uncertainty, surrender is entering into the state of uncertainty, insecurity. Really, a delve into uncertainty and insecurity is surrender. So it is easy to say that I surrender to God or Allah, because really there is no one to whom you are surrendering and you remain the master. It is difficult to surrender to a living master because then you are no longer the master. With God, you go on receiving because no one is going to ask you. There is a Jewish anecdote. One old man was praying to God and said, my neighbor A is very poor, and last year I prayed to you, but you have not done anything for him. My other neighbor B is crippled. I prayed last year too, but you have not done anything. And so on and so forth. And as you know, the Christian prayers are very long. He talked about all the neighbors, and then in the end he said, now I will pray again this year. If you forgive me, I can also forgive you. This is talk alone. Every talk with God or divine is a monologue. The other is not there. So it is up to you what you are going, what you are doing, what you are saying is all up to you. And you remain the master. That is why there is so much insistence in Tantra to surrender to a living master, because then your ego is shattered. There are 7 ways, 7 doors through which ego enters in you, and that shattering is the base. That shattering is the base, and only then something can rise in you, can rise out of you, can born out of you. But do not ask me what you can do to surrender. You cannot do anything, and there is nothing that can be done to surrender. Or you can do only one thing. Be aware of what you can do by doing, what you have gained by doing. You have not gained anything in life by doing. You have gained, be aware. You have gained much. You have gained, what have you gained? Miseries, anguishes, nightmares. Yes, you have gained these. That is what you have gained through your own efforts. This is what ego can claim, can gain. Be aware of it. Be aware of the misery that you have created. Be aware of the anguish that you have created. Positively, activity without surrendering. Whatsoever you have done to your life up to now, be aware of it. That very awareness will help you one day to throw it all to surrender. And remember that you will be transformed. You will be transformed not by surrender to a master, but by surrender itself. Master is an embodiment of nothingness. In the process of surrender, master is irrelevant. He is not the point. People go on coming and say, I want to surrender. But to whom? That is not the point. You are missing the point completely. It is not the question of to whom. Just surrendering helps. Surrendering is always to the unknown and unknowable, and master is just an excuse. Just surrendering helps, not the person to whom you have surrendered. It is the surrendering of your ego. He may not be there, or he may not be authentic, or he may not be an enlightened one. He may just be a rogue. That is not the point. All is irrelevant. You have surrendered. That helps because now you are vulnerable, open. You have become feminine. Male ego is lost, and you have become a feminine womb. The person who have surrendered to many bogus, or he may not be, that is not the point. You have surrendered. Now something can happen to you. And many times it has happened that even with a false master, disciples become enlightened. You may be surprised. Even with a false master, disciples disciples have become enlightened. It is reported of Milarepa that he went to a master and surrendered. Milarepa was a very faithful person, very trusting. So when the master said, "You will have to surrender to me, only then I can help," he said, "Okay, I surrender." But many persons were jealous. Old followers of that master were jealous of Milarepa because Milarepa was such a different type of a person. He was very magnetic. He was a magnetic force. They became afraid that if this man remained there, he would be the chief disciple, the next master. So they said to the master, "This man seems to be false. So first check whether his surrender is real or not." The master said, "How should we examine?" They said, "Tell him to jump from the hill." They were sitting on a hill. So the master said, "Milarepa, if you have surrendered, just jump from this hill." So he did not wait for a single moment. He said yes, he jumped. The disciples thought that he will be dead. Then they went down. It took hours for them to go down to the valley. He was just sitting under the tree meditating. And he was happy as had never been. So they gathered. And the disciples thought this must be just a coincidence. The master was also surprised. How could this happen? So he asked Milarepa privately, "What did you do? How did it happen?" He said, "When I surrendered, there was no question of my dying. When I surrendered, there was no question of my dying. You have done something." The master knew very well that he has not done anything, so he tried again. One house was on fire. So he told Milarepa to go in and sit there, and only to come out when the whole house has turned into ashes. Milarepa went in. He stayed there for hours. The house was on fire. It turned into ashes. When they reached, he was just buried in the ashes, but as alive and blissful as ever. Milarepa touched his master's feet and said, "You are doing miracles." So the master said, "It is difficult to think that it is again a coincidence." But the followers said, "This is nothing but a coincidence again. Try again." At least 3 trials are needed. They were passing through a village and the master said, "Milarepa, the boat has not yet come and the ferryman has not kept his promise. So you go, walk on the water, go to the other side of the bank and tell the ferryman to come." Milarepa walked, and then the master really thought it was a miracle. He walked and went to the other bank and brought the ferry. The master said, "Milarepa, how are you doing it?" He said, "I just take your name and go on. It is your name, Master, that helps me." Such is the nature of surrender. So the master thought, if my name helps so much, he tried to walk on the water also, but he drowned. And no one has ever heard about him again. How did it happen? Surrender is the thing, not the master. Surrender is the ultimate. Master is not important. Not the thing to which you surrender. The statue, the temple, the tree, the stone, anything will do. If you surrender, you become vulnerable to the existence, to the unknown, to the unknowable. Then the whole existence takes you into its arms. Then the unknown takes you into its arms. The story may be just a parable, but the meaning is that when you surrender, the whole existence is for you. The fire, the hill. The fire, the hill, the valley. Nothing is against you because you are not against anything. The enmity is completely lost. If you fall from a hill and your bones are broken, it is the bones of your ego. You were resisting. You did not allow the valley to help you. You were helping yourself. You were thinking yourself more wise than the existence. Surrender means to come to realize that whatever you do will be stupid. It will be foolish. And you have done many stupid things for many lives. Leave it to the existence itself. You can do nothing. You have to realize that you are helpless. And this realization that I am helpless helps the surrender to happen. It helps the surrender to happen. Only this much for this morning, until we meet again to start the new journey from sound to inner silence, the sutras of Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. Until then, take care and do have a pleasant day.